You know, I've never actually tried licorice before. It's very much a love it or hate it kind of sweet. So I'm going to make my parents proud and try something new. I'm on the hate it side. Look, it's the intro thing. It's the thing in the intro. Hi, I'm Rosie Ultraviolet and I took up caffeine for this. Sandwich Saku is a joke of a game I made for the third Lospec Jam back in August last year. The premise is that you're some British woman who woke up with the power to manifest licorice out of your bare hands, but the catch is now every other sweet tastes like licorice too. So if you go to the dark side and join some supervillain group, because I guess she's got nothing better to do with her life. I was having an extra long summer holiday that year due to the way GCSEs work, so I figured, well, I have all this time, let's go look at the game jam page on Itch. I wrote a script months ago and I've gone back and edited in places, but yeah, if it feels clunky, that's why. For those who are unfamiliar with the Lospec Jams, Lospec is a website for people who like to make pixel art stuff, but I only tend to use it for finding specific 80s computers colour palettes. Pretty handy actually. But every now and then they hold a jam where you make a little game for a fantasy console and there's specific specs you have to follow and some optional ones for the masochists. The third one was this tablet looking one, which means I don't need to learn how to program menus. Fuck yeah, curses! Also this had a solid month as its period, so I went and signed up. There was no theme with this jam, but my first thought was some kind of rhythm game that only required one touch control, that or a visual novel. When I first saw the colour palette requirements, I imagined 5 main colours. The next day I asked my brother for help in brainstorming ideas. I showed him the Itch page and my general idea. I imagined 3 different backdrops of 3 different colour schemes, but I wasn't sure of anything else. Together we came up with sand, seawater and cherry blossoms. I asked ChatGPT out of curiosity to see what it spew out, and it came up with the most generic-ass fantasy thing you can think of. I mean, they named the characters Arid, Marina, and Sakura. I have a visual novel idea for a game jam where there's 3 settings: a desert, an ocean, and a forest with cherry blossom trees. I need an idea on a general plot that involves 3 characters represented by the 3 main settings. Title: Eternal Echoes. General plot: in a world where nature's elements are intertwined with human souls, 3 guardians embody the essence of their respective domains: the desert, the ocean, and the forest. Their destinies are bound together by an ancient prophecy that foretells the balance of the world hinges on their unity. Each guardian is the protector of their realm and carries the unique power associated with appearance. Long flowing blue hair and sea green eyes, dressed in garments reminiscent of the waves. The story begins with an ancient ritual that awakens the 3 guardians from their deep slumber. Each guardian is unaware of the other's existence and ability to work together. Each trial is set in one of the 3 realms, forcing them to navigate the other's domain and learn from it. With the threat vanquished, the guardians return to their realms, but their connection remains. The balance of nature and interconnectedness of all things, the power of resilience, calm and nurtured character and experience, an epic story of unity and balance. That's my audiobook voice. Can communicate with sea creatures and create tidal waves. I didn't know Aquaman had a waifu form. While skim reading it and laughing, I noticed they made them elemental guardians or something, and it reminded me of a reboot idea I saw a webcomic I made a couple years ago called Elemental High Reverb. I nicked that idea and suddenly I was on a roll. I typed out all of my ideas into a text document and me and my brother thought it was hilarious. Brainstorming thing. 3 elements: sand, seawater, cherry blossom. Used to be superheroes when they were teenagers, now they work in minimum wage jobs. Sand, Amazon delivery. Seawater, popcorn vendor. Cherry blossom, Tesco worker. Side effects. Sand. Always sand in their shoes. Seawater. Constantly dehydrated. Cherry blossom. Hay fever. You are evil villain that is the element of licorice, and you are bittersweet Lolita, part of some evil villain thing. Use the others with your big brain to get them to tell you where the others are. Then kidnap them all for the villain thing, and you win. Yay! Element of Scissors is the boss. Their edgelord. Scissors, shaky hands. Licorice. Can't enjoy any other kind of sweet. Etymology. When I started working on this game, I typed out the script into a LibreOffice document, and for the different options I structured it like this, and typed out the correct options first and then worked my way down with the other ones. It's also the same order I programmed them in to avoid confusion with all the branches. Writing the scripts made me feel bad for the characters, but it would be so unsatisfying if Lillian didn't win, so I tried to not get attached. It didn't work. I designed the characters on the second day by opening up Gacha Life 2 with a vague idea and making the designs there. Rayan was the hardest, as I wasn't sure to make his clothes look like the people native to the Sahara Desert or people who go hiking there wear. I settled with something that's kind of in between, that's red and yellow for colour scheming's sake. Moriko's name was the easiest to come up with. I looked on one of those baby name websites for Japanese names, as naming the Element of Cherry Blossoms Sakura would be cringe. Her last name is the Japanese word for Mount Yoshino, a mountain with a lot of cherry blossom trees on it. Must have been destiny or something. For Coralia and Rayan, I had a general idea where their names would be based from, so I searched Mediterranean names and North African names, and the only results I got were for Greek names and Moroccan names. So after some searching for name combinations, I came up with their names. Rayan was the hardest to come up with a name, as there'd always be someone on Facebook or LinkedIn with that name, so I would have to keep searching. Lillian's last name is the town in which licorice was invented. The creativity is off the charts here. I just hope the real life Lillian Pontefract doesn't come back from the dead to question what her name is being applied to. Not sure how I got the name Lillian, it just popped into my head when I was thinking of semi-fancy English names. In terms of designs, I've already mentioned Rayan, so I'll go over the girls. Moriko's dress was inspired by wild Lolita dresses because Japanese. Coralia's outfit is a swimsuit with some kind of poncho thing and one of those beach skirts, and enough ribbons to make you question the practicality. Lillian's is actually kinda lame looking back. I was going for the bittersweet Lolita aesthetic, but she doesn't look licoricey enough. I designed her around the colours yellow and pink, as most licorice that isn't the usual black seems to be in those colours, as well as orange, which I made her eyes. The next day I went on to pixel art because I'm too brave for IE Sprite, and drew this character sheet for Moriko, which was also when I drew the UI and got a general idea on how I wanted it to look. I also made this Tumblr post because I thought the little sprites looked cute. Fun fact, when I was drawing the character sheet for Lillian, my dad was re-gluing wallpaper down right where my desk usually is, so I was sketching this on my knees in the centre of my bedroom. The sprites only have one pose because it takes too much time and effort, so I tried to put a lot of expressions on. I made Lillian's first, and I wish I gave her more expressions now, but I never got round to adding more. I forgot to draw a smiling sprite for Moriko with her mouth open, but I added that after her main scene. All the art is at the 256 by 144 resolution, and the sprites are the same, just in different positions on the drawing itself. I didn't have any plan on making a normal sprite set for Lillian until I wrote the epilogue and made a design on the top of my head, which is why it looks blue. I also wasn't planning for the Element of Paper or Amelia to have sprites too, but I had time, so I added them at the end. Almost all of the animations were drawn in batches based on the act, the exception being the prologue, as I wasn't originally planning animations, but then I got carried away in the dorm room scene, chucking animations everywhere, so I decided it made the most sense. I wasn't planning on adding shading originally, which is why the first scene's animation has none and looks kinda bad, as I was still figuring out the colour palette. The animations of separate scenes get called and played, so there's a crap ton of scenes, but I'll talk about that in the coding section. The font was the most annoying part. I cycled through so many fonts trying to find one that was actually readable in a small resolution. That's when I found out Godot compresses pixel fonts for some reason, but I found this font that was readable, but when it was exported all the punctuation were funky. So I made my own font with some bitmap program and I'm quite proud of it. It looks better too, has more personality to it. This meant I had to update the promotional art though. Damn you fonts. I made this in Godot 4 with Dialogic too. There was this template thing on the Itch page but I didn't use it. It took a lot of fiddling to get the custom text box to work in typical Dialogic 2 fashion. For the others I just duplicated the custom scene and changed the texture. I forgot to colour the background in this one frame in the intro, so I added this panel. The way Dialogic 2 works is that Dialogic scene is overlaid over the scene it was called in, but due to the low resolution, it's not noticeable that the main UI is behind the sprite and the background, as it lines up perfectly. The licorice is part of the text boxes, so it's overlaid on top of the sprites. The scroll bar was chunky and ugly without the custom theme that it took me way too much effort to figure out how to get right. I learned a lot on how to use Dialogic 2 from this, and also the fact that the text editor is a lifesaver for when you're doing a lot of copying and pasting. Because the text boxes have different shapes, I couldn't link them to the characters, so I had to manually change the text boxes every time, as well as updating the other character to close their mouth, and dear god, this got tedious. It got worse when there's multiple characters talking. I would have to make the first one leave, then the second one join, and change the background, which leads to flicker in places where the order is a bit weird. That's why I made the background for Morocco and Coralia the same in this scene, and this scene here, and here I made the background part of the actual sprite because he wasn't going to appear in any other scene in his work uniform, so there'd be no point making them separate. All the animation scenes are just the same thing. All the scripts are the exact same, which makes you wonder why I didn't just make them all call the same script and save myself the sanity. I stored them all on the main scene for convenience, but the nice order got messed up when I changed the resolution for those damn fonts. Due to the text compression despite me pressing these buttons, it meant I had to make the resolution higher. This was after I had done all the work, and I chucked it to 720p as 1080p would take up too much space in the Newgrounds version, and you would have to zoom out, assuming you were using a 1080p monitor. The only thing this really affects is the text scrolling, but I had to go through every single scene to enlarge it by 5. I also had to redo the outro as out as a video to avoid having to code stuff, because it was in 144p, it was very low quality when upscaled. Also it was in the old font. These buttons took a lot of fiddling to be in the right place now too. I got my brother to test play it, and now this bug he found where the scene after the third manipulation time wouldn't play, as that's because the timeline ended. It would show the failure screen, as that's what the Dialogic scene is covering up. As he was playing, I patched it and some visual stuff. The last few scenes don't have the location because I accidentally left the UI in the background when exporting them, so it's covering up the actual UI. Oops. The stuff in the middle was the last thing I coded, as it wasn't really necessary. The text was going to be scrapped, it was unreadable until the upscaling. Both the bar and the text work on a bunch of signal if statements, which I'm sure there's a more convenient way to code that, this works. The yellow square was supposed to be a settings button, then a sound toggler, when I couldn't think of anything for the settings, but because the Dialogic overlay is covering the button, it was impossible to click it. I made all the songs myself on LMMS, and I just figured out the concept of humanizing MIDI. I was trying to go for a chiptune vibe, but it's only really prevalent in like 3 songs, so... Fun fact, all the songs are in minor except the last one where the superheroes are captured. There was supposed to be another section for manipulation time, but I scrapped it as it wrecked the flow, and I'm thankful I did that because now it's a banger. playing on loop when I made them because I liked them so much. I wasn't very proud of Corellia's house when I first made it, but now I think it's alright. It sounds oddly retro, like something I've made when I was 14 or something. I got all the sound effects off Freesample. Almost all of them were just sitting in my sound effects folder, so the only one I had credits for was the big metal door. But I downloaded that for the project. The voice acting was all me, with the sample rate down to 8000 and some compression audacity effect. I did the same thing with the part of Corellia's house that played in the phone call. I tried to bit crush it, but I couldn't find a way to do that effect. I made the project on Newgrounds and Itch weeks before the deadline so I could set stuff up. Annoyingly, this means on the Game Jam page the date is messed up. I was the 7th entry and I submitted it on the 29th. I played the other games and I said to myself, yeah, I'm not getting first place. I came last.
I was tired of a Flappy Bird clone. That wasn't even a game, it was a GIF. What does this mean about me? What does this mean about this industry, this world? Brain matter!
Nobody cared about its existence, but that didn't stop me from putting art of it all over my website. Now look at all the people who care. Don't think it's been long enough to really make a retrospective, but I don't care. It popped back into my mind because I'm coming up with a sequel that uses the ZX Spectrum colour palette. And when I was on holiday earlier this July, there was this pick and mix shop that had all sorts of licorice, which made for some very strange questions for my parents. Look, it's a plot. I need to know the specifics on how far this power can go. I still see it as an unserious little game about screwing up people's lives, but after I made that game, I got more ideas and I wanted to make this a series of a sort, with these little pixel art games, with different consoles and computers' colour palettes. I made a mock-up here. I mean, the premise itself feels very British. I don't think any other country really has licorice. I mean, the Americans have their own spelling of it, but they have much worse sweets to argue about. Over here we got licorice in Tesco, and Asda, and Aldi, Poundland.
All the people, those tasteless people.
Also, the evil Elemental Society being in Birmingham would lose the joke outside of England because it's not the punching bag city there. To be fair though, the council managed to get bankrupt. How did that even happen? Did everybody just collectively decide, you know what? I don't feel like paying taxes anymore, and all the shops on the high street followed along? Like, how? How many private jets did they buy or something? How does one have such terrible financial decisions that they made a council go bankrupt? I know it's terrible for the people living in said city, especially in massive one like Birmingham, but that's just impressive. I wonder if it won a Guinness World Record. It's like stuff like that I want to lean in more of a sequel, not the politics, because then God forbid I'd have to actually pay attention to the news, but how the average person is affected. I already have an idea for an element of currency whose hobby is to cause worldwide inflation. Not very empathetic, but the world's a shitty comedy show, might as well laugh at it. Nobody will care if I keep this going or not, but hey, I'm proud of Samutsaku and I need to fill my ego somehow so I don't turn into one of those fake depressed losers on Pinterest. Anyway, see you afternoon. My say is your violence girl with your music mixed with rock. If you wanna check your brain and go to high level, listen to me in the deadly airlock. It's very easy to gain bad habits. All you need is desperation. Just lose yourself and kill your rabbits. Not in sophistication.